Hmm. So I'm curious then, Dr. Ross, can you talk about maybe some of the experiences that you've investigated that like credence to like what you've just kind of argued for here? So like maybe like something that you could talk about, maybe it's in like one of your books, or people could look up and find some other documentation that kind of lays credence towards like your kind of view of what's going on with regards to these UFO sightings.
Well, it's rare that you run into experiences where you got multiple observers. I mean, most often I'm talking to somebody who's had one of these scary encounters, but I can't get enough information out of them to actually determine the trajectory through the atmosphere or the velocity at which it's moving. And rarely do you have a crash site or anything like that. But what I do is I ask a lot of questions. Have you been involved in the occult? And I found Americans are rather ignorant about the occult. They'll say, oh, no, no, I've never been involved in anything occultic. I've avoided witchcraft. So I wound up going through a checklist saying, well, have you ever been to a seance? Or have you ever played with a Ouija board? Or ever you engaged in astrology? And they said, oh, yeah, I've done those things. Or, do you have a grandfather that practices these kinds of activities? They'll say, no, but my mother did. And we need to realize often the demons will work through a close relative to get to us. And I find it interesting that when King David took the throne, he confessed the sins of his parents in order that demonic creatures would not be able to use him to attack the Israelite nation. And so, what I do with these people is say, look, number one, stop all this occult stuff that you're involved in, and sometimes it's just a possession of an article. I ran into this one guy, and he said, "I got nothing," and he went down the checklist. Said, "I've done none of that," but I found out that there was occultic items, artwork at his home. They weren't his, but they were left behind by the previous owner. So I said, let's destroy those items. We destroyed those items, and that was the end of his UFO encounters. So to me, that's kind of what I'm involved in. It's helping people being delivered from these UFO encounters. Basically, helping them to put aside the occult and basically say, hey, if it's a close relative, if you agree with God in prayer that what they're doing is displeasing to Him, that will cut the link between that relative and you, and will cut the link from that relative to your family. And so confessing the sins of your close relatives is key, and making sure that your life is free of all this. And, people tell me, wow, it worked. I'm having none of these encounters have happened. I'm no longer having these terrifying nightmares anymore. It really works. But the opposite is also true. If someone begins to involve themselves in the occult and in seances and in witchcraft, it's only a matter of time before they have one of these encounters.